Yeah, we're going to experience God's creation. So, say, hey, where are these guys at? Well, we are at Cedar Haven Farm near Hamilton, Ontario, with an international Christian creation care organization, Arasha. So there's this wonderful partnership.
Yeah, Arasha focuses on environmental stewardship. What does that mean? Essentially, taking care of God's creation. They engage in meaningful scientific research and environmental education, as well as community-based conservation projects.
Now, Arasha not only has this wonderful place here, but they also have environmental centers in BC, in Winnipeg, and plans are already underway to build a one-of-a-kind eco-center in East Braintree, Manitoba. And so we're going to talk about that because this is an amazing vision this couple had. And our CEO, Lorna Duke, will talk with Walter Lowen a little bit later on about this amazing and unique vision.
Oh, he has such a passion for what Arasha does all across our country. Well, earlier this summer, a group of students got to participate in Arasha's Wild Things program.
Ooh.
Very interested?
Looking forward.
Let's take a look. Yeah.
Are we trying to figure out what it eats
Yeah.
on the ground? It's very unique to teach creation care to younger people. Oftentimes these days, youth are growing up much more attached to the screen than to the forest. There's a lot of studies that have shown that there is a real benefit, a health benefit, an emotional benefit, a sociological benefit to being in God's creation. But sadly, it's rare these days. So we really are helping kids relearn how to just be and explore the wild and just take risks and be curious.
Let's put them away so you can enjoy.
So you can be alone in nature because it's a big world. And there's a lot of space to be alone. You can say your prayers if you didn't want to say them out loud. You have a space that no one's going to disturb you.
We start with teaching and educating and identifying, and through that, then we kind of take them through, now that you know and you understand, what can your role be in caring for this world around you?
It makes me feel more connected with the nature. It makes me feel more relaxed when I hear birds chirping and water falling.
By the end of the day, they're both exhausted but excited about what they've learned and what they're taking home to their places. And hopefully, the next day they come back with new questions and things that they've seen in their neighborhood.
Already I've been learning about plants. There's some of the plants in the book that we got that are just, I haven't seen before, and they're new to me. And I can't wait to learn about insects tomorrow.
We are now joined by the Ontario director of Arasha. You just saw him in the piece before. Luke, thank you for having us here.
You're welcome. Glad to have you here as well.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about creation care.
Yeah, Maggie, it's a term that was new to me as well. When I first started 9 years ago with Arasha, it basically tries to capture eco-stewardship, environmental concern, and actual hands-on care, but recognizing that there's a creator, God, who made the world, loves it, and entrusted it to us to care for. So the term is intentionally meant to remind us of God and remind us that this work is actually worship. It's service when we care for God's creation.
Okay, and this is the first time I've heard of this term, eco-discipleship.
Yeah.
Tell me, what does that mean?
Yeah. So eco-discipleship was an idea that came to us because we recognize a lot of students want to bring together their love for the planet and creation with their love for Christ. And they kind of have a lot of questions about how to do that. So we're trying to disciple them to help them see that Christ's work is about all creation. Not just themselves, but also about the species that they care for or the watershed that they care for. And we help them see how that's true.
And so what is the hope of having an eco-discipleship program here at Arasha?
Yeah. So our hope for the program in particular is that we would see 10 students every 3 months come through and really be transformed by their love for God's creation and their love for Christ, and that they would go out into their fields and bring that into the places where they are, bring a hope that is needed in the environmental world that sometimes can be despairing.
Thank you so much again, Luke.
You're welcome.
Well, as we saw, Arusha is a great place for students to be able to get out and get into nature and understand creation care. But how about those that are not able to get out of the city? Watch this.
I was 15 when I left Jamaica. I came up with my dad and my stepmom, and things weren't going so well, so I ended up moving to a shelter back and forward. Then I ended up moving with my baby father, ended up getting pregnant, have a 9-year-old daughter. Things weren't going well. CS got involved, so I ended up losing my daughter. I went back to a shelter, then I came to Indwell, and since I've been here, they've been a great support. And especially being pregnant. I've never been to a farm before.
Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled that you're here. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the people who this programming is for don't have access to come to wild places or just experience being in wild places. Getting out of the city, the noise and the hustle of the city, I think whether or not we realize it, it definitely adds a level of stress to our lives. And so we hope that when people come out here, they can de-stress a little bit, they can just breathe.
What are you expecting about this apartment today? A lot of our tenants don't really have access to extra things and trips. It's a pretty special opportunity for them. Being in nature can really be a spiritual experience for a lot of people, and to give them that opportunity when it's just out of reach is pretty special. Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to be going on a hike, and it'll be primarily to identify wildflowers. We're going to pick the wildflowers and bring them back and make bouquets for the participants to take home. We want to encourage what they learn here that they can take home and teach other people so that they can feel empowered and like teachers themselves.
Do you want to carry these ones, or you want them in the bucket?
Most of us live right in the city on main streets, so you hear the motorcycles, the fire trucks, ambulances. As soon as you step off the bus here, very first thing most of us say is, listen to how quiet it is. I can't speak for others, but sometimes due to challenges in my life and that, I feel like I'm racing inside. With my life experience, horrific abuse, things like that, it's so easy to get caught up in I'm hurting, I'm this, I'm that, that you have a tendency to forget that there's others maybe in the same. And since being with Indwell and getting to go out on outings like this and interact with one another, I think you really grow as a person.
I think the most significant way that we try and encourage people to hear God in His creation is really by teaching them to see differently, to look a little closer, look behind a leaf, see what bugs are there, see how the veins wind and what makes it unique. You start to begin to see attributes of God as a creator who just paints with a whole bunch of different colors and methods, and there's always something deeper behind the main big picture that we see. So we try and help people see anew.
Some of the things I learned being out here today is about the flowers, the name of them, and like looking at the birds and the horse and the donkeys, and it was wonderful.
Pretty hard to beat the handiwork of God in the beauty of nature. And we want to take you now on a story that reminds us the importance of being good stewards of the environment. We've been learning with Arusha. They are an environmental charity that we love, And we have a great story that's come to us via Walter Lowen. He's 89 years old and energetic about the beauty of nature. In fact, Walter and his wife Eleanor spent many happy hours in nature. And they have decided that the best way to honor their 66-year marriage, to remember Ellie's legacy, is to gift their property to Arusha so people like you and I, universities, communities, all of us could learn from this beautiful area. We're going to take you to a property just east of Winnipeg, actually an hour and a half east of Winnipeg, about an hour south of the Ontario border, East Braintree, and take a look at the ecosystem underway there.
We started from ground zero. We brought in the first instruments from Japan in 1957. When we had to sell to the company in Japan in 1973, it was the largest music distributor in Canada. The Yamaha company then dominated the music scene in Canada from the very start when we started in 1957. When we got out of the business, after a while, I guess I could have retired, but that wasn't a word that I understood. My parents came from a background where they honored the land. It was God's creation, and although they came over here as refugees, and we couldn't afford anything, but nevertheless, as we grew into owning a summer cottage and a home in the city and so on, you grew up with being environmentally aware. I guess I inherited this somewhat from my parents, but the biggest influence had to be Ellie. She was the inspiration that you couldn't possibly describe, the inspiration she provided for me, not only in this realm, but when we were in business, she was my constant inspiration. And it came from her deep love for the scriptures, and she knew that God was in control. And she just kept impressing me with that. And that's why we had such a marvelous 66-year marriage. This was 45 years ago, and Eleanor and I, we still enjoyed holding hands. And we thought that this would be a nice part of the country to sort of buy an old homestead and just redo it and have it as a weekend getaway. We bought this, and it wasn't any time after that, and Eleanor said, you know, this is just too fine to keep for ourselves. We must share this. Almost from the first couple of years that we were here, Ellie just insisted that, no, we must share this place. It's too good to keep for ourselves. A Christian organization like Arusha, they will emphasize their work based on creation care. Creation care implies that someone had to create this. And I don't know of any other organization that could bring out the creation aspect of this as well as a Christian organization. It behooves us to do this if we are believers and we read our Bible, and we are given to understand throughout the scriptures that we are to care for the creation. And this is one way of expressing that. Well, this part of Manitoba, first coming here, it looked very nice and fine, but we learned, especially this particular part, we discovered that this pristine setting is unmatched. And then we discovered that there were soil types here that aren't found elsewhere. And in this very place, there are 9 soil types that come together. This gives you 16 ecological zones, which makes it entirely unique. And as a matter of fact, you can't duplicate this anywhere in Manitoba. it is sort of a focal point for the coming together of three major regions, like the boreal region and the prairie region and the superior region, let us say. And it's just the coming together here. And why the good Lord deposited these various soil types here is a mystery. I have sincere confidence in A Rocha being able to share this with the many young people that they will have coming out here. And they will learn firsthand what it is to have this peace and quiet, tranquility, and learn about the nature.
Walter Lowen is someone who is so dedicated and committed to this place and has already been stewarding it for, I think, over 40 years. And in a lot of ways, A Rocha is intending to just pick up the torch that way, that our intention is to steward it as the Lowens have stewarded it for so long, and to pay particular attention and make it accessible that people can actually engage it and experience God in this place.
It's an appreciation of his handiwork. It results in feeling so tranquil, so blessed. You're just relaxed in the arms of the Lord, as it were. And it's such a feeling that you can't express, and it results in a reflection in your own health and your own vision. My wife, Sweetie Pie, lived to be 88 years of age, and she's outlived all her friends. I'm going to be 90, and I'm still healthy and well. I attribute this largely to the peace and tranquility and serenity that we've enjoyed here for 45 years.
The peace and tranquility of nature, what a wonderful opportunity to just take a pause and catch that with Walter Lowen. And what a poignant reminder of the legacy of his wife Eleanor, 66 years marriage together. Maybe something about pausing in nature kept that glue together. Well, it's a gift that Scott Gerbrandt of A Rocha, Manitoba will steward next. Listen to how that's going to unfold.
In the future, we hope that people are able to walk into the forest, experience God's creation in this pristine place. We have plans to build a new, what we're going to call the Boreal Ecology Center, a new building of which can house more people. It'll be a learning center, so actually people can come and arrive and actually participate in actual activities, both in terms of conservation as well as education on site. Significantly, we're hoping to have a field station present there, but even more than that, we're hoping to create community on this site. So even having internships and people to kind of actually live here on site so that the people are experiencing that sense of community together, paying attention to this place. Our hope is that as people are inspired with both the hope of engaging creation care here, that they actually take that back to the place they find themselves, that they actually, you know, whether it be in the urban center or whether it be in other rural locations, we want people to kind of take this experience and actually apply it for where they live. One of the things that was a surprise to me, because I've lived in the area for a very long time, really close by. As a kid, I grew up maybe only about 50 kilometers from here. And it was actually just this spring when I was on a trail not too far from here and discovered the pine cone of a tamarack tree, of which I've seen those many times before, but I'd never, in terms of the trees, but I've never seen the cone. And it's this beautiful cone. So how have I changed? I think I've been discovering new things and just in awe and kind of reawakening some of that wonder and curiosity that I think is so critical for us these days.
I admit I've had a divided heart, and I've struggled between the tension of worldly success and spiritual fulfillment. But I've learned that what keeps us from flourishing in our spiritual lives is the neglect of our inner life of the soul. And I want to show you a fresh perspective in my new book, Survival Guide for the Soul. Through my stories and a wide range of sources, I demonstrate how the gospel lifts this pressure off of our shoulders, restores our desires, and reorders our spiritual lives. I share spiritual practices that will help you attune to God's presence and discover a liberating and countercultural definition of true greatness. Call 100 Huntley Street today with your best ministry gift, and you'll receive a copy of my book, 1-800-265-3100. I pray that this book changes your life.
You know, whether you're here in this beautiful part of God's creation, or maybe you're living in the city, it's noisy, you're in an apartment, all of us need to spend time with God, and we can get away to be with God and experience His love, His presence, as we quiet ourselves down. Pastor Ken Shigematsu from Vancouver has written, well, I think one of the most important books I've read in a long time, because it's helped get me out of some of my routines. You know, now I love to do my devotions, but to be with the Lord, experience Him, and then study His Word. It's really been transformative. I'd encourage you to get this great book by Pastor Ken, Survival Guide for the Soul, How to Flourish Spiritually in a World that pressures us to succeed. And Pastor Ken was one of those guys, very driven in the corporate world, and even continued on as a pastor, left that high energy, and he's learned really to slow things down. And the cool thing about it is we can be more effective to doing God's work. You know, when you experience the beauty of God's creation, it really can be transformative. You know, the light bulb can go on. Let's have a look at this next story.
It touched me directly and started to impact how I looked at how I ate, how I communicated, how I transported myself. It connected me to creation, and I wasn't connected before.
When I'm in the classroom, I'm thinking in my head, when do I get to go home? But when I'm outside and learning, I'm thinking, I don't ever want to go home because this is so fun.
I was just constantly trying to find something, but I wasn't aware that I'm searching till the day I drove to that gate.
We had a large home, high-performance vehicles, ski boats. Didn't have a big, real vision of the world issues. We recycled, but that was about as far as we went into that world. I didn't become aware of the footprint we had. What I became aware of is my anger towards the issues. So about the same time, I met Marcu Costumo, Executive Director of Arasha, and he talked differently about the same issues, the hopefulness of creation care, a loving God. I just started changing. Sold the Mustang, bought a hybrid. And they were all natural actions as a result of a relationship with God. This organization is grounded in real science. And so when they are brought into an ecosystem, whether it's a river or a forest or something, they first evaluate it, they map it, they document it, and then they begin to move forward with science-based change, whether it's new plants, removing invasive species. And so they're in the river, in the dirt, moving things around, teaching children about it, working with other environmental organizations, and over time that environment ecosystem thrives. The sailor sucker is a fish that created a shockwave through the community. It's been missing for decades in the Little Campbell watershed, and one of the interns got up one morning and in her trap she found it, and it was a big deal. This creature was thought to have been extinct. And so now there's an opportunity to help research it, bring it back, and adapt the community to maybe it thrives again. Arasha has an international footprint around the world, over 20 sites. And so you have this wonderful flow of international students, scientists, theologians, moving from country to country, doing good science and good community work in each of their environments.
When I'm in a classroom, they're just telling me what it is. I don't get to see it, touch it, or hear it, or even smell it. But when I'm learning and touching it or drawing it, I can feel it, see it, I can do it with all my 4 senses, and I feel like that helps me learn more. My name is Brian Brules, and I'm in grade 7. Kids can experience Arasha by going to summer camps or field trips. I got to experience going to a summer camp, which was very fun for me because I got to explore around and just see all the different animals that they have here. The first thing that I did when I was here is I fed chickens. I also went to the forest. We built a little fort from twigs. We went down to the lake and tried to catch fish to see if one was invasive. If it doesn't belong, sometimes they can ruin the ecosystem by eating other things, and then it's taking over the whole ecosystem.
In Arabic, there is a word says في حب الله. That means you do everything for the love of God. I never felt that I am more comfortable talking about this or actually expressing it freely till I came here, because everyone is doing it. Maybe they say it different way, but it is the same thing. In Arosha, the sustainable agriculture is part of their mandate because it just goes back directly to their love of creation. You take care of what the soil needs from you, so you plan what to give the soil, and the soil will give you back. And what will give you is actually perfect for you in the season. It is just respecting nature and working with it as you are part of it, that you are not just want to take a profit out of it. So this is the right way to live anyway.
There's a community aspect here that I think is missing from a lot of people in their lives. And when you come to Arosha, you plug into this community. And very quickly, you're sharing your life with people who you've only met over soup and a piece of bread.
I feel like I've learned a lot, and I do have a responsibility to help this planet.
So my ultimate joy is when the person in front of me take the first spoon and they tell me, wow, like the amount of flavors that they get. This is my ultimate joy I can receive.
Arosha has changed me because I love going outside now. I do want to be a person who helps out the environment. I think that's the right thing to do.
I love this organization, and I'm so thankful for the impact it's had on my life, on my family, and I love how it does what it does, and I support it with everything I have.
My love is for Arosha as a whole, including the land setting. But the land setting is not the main thing, it is the people. Arosha for me is my place of belonging. Love it here, truly.
Oh, I love that. And it's just a great reminder, Greg, of how we sometimes take this for granted. We take for granted God's creation, and we're always so stuck in our offices and our buildings, and we just don't have time to get outside enough.
And I love that where you get young people that can get out of the city. Maybe they've gone through traumatic experiences and just come here and heal with God's nature.
Yeah, and I love what John said. Sold the Mustang, bought a hybrid. It doesn't take drastic changes like that, but it's just appreciating what God has created and finding ways to enjoy it. So I know, this past summer, the boys and I tried to get outside as much as we could and go to the beach. And instead of being closed off and going to movies, which is great, or watching TV, but just having the opportunity in the nice warm weather to just enjoy what we see outside.
And we appreciate people like Walter Lone in Manitoba saying, you know what, I want to share this. God's given us an amazing creation, and we need to share it too. So thank you for your support of this ministry, and I do hope you have yourself a great weekend and get alone with God and enjoy what He's put here.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.